2018 is very closely coming to an end, and while we had a lot of amazing stuff come out gaming-wise, on the hardware end, it's been a little slower. Now this makes sense, because last year we got both the Nintendo Switch and the Xbox One X, and PlayStation is still riding the success of the PS4 Slim and Pro, so we didn't really see anything new come out this year. But when you look at the horizon, what's in the future for 2019 and even beyond that, there is a lot of stuff going on. First, let's take a look at Nintendo
predictions.
Because unlike the other two major companies who are still waiting on doing actual next-gen systems, we just got a new system with the Switch just last year. So they're not looking to do any kind of major new hardware or any kind of revolutionary change. Instead, we're more likely going to see some kind of hardware refresh. Now, what this means for the Switch in particular could actually be a couple different things. Now, there are already very hard rumors that Nintendo is working on something for sure, and then it's looking to come out sometime in 2019. But how the refresh looks, there's a lot of different theories. Now, on the one hand, it could just be a very simple, straightforward refresh, whether that's a Nintendo Switch 2.0, Nintendo Switch Slim, something like that, where we could just see some light changes to it, maybe an improved kickstand, smaller bezels, and some light improvements, and maybe upgrading some features that are missing from the current Switch, like Bluetooth support, increasing the battery life, or giving just a little extra power to make sure performance is a little more balanced across most games. On the other hand, it's possible that this new version of the Switch could be something significantly different. There's two avenues you can go with this. First off, there's the idea of a 0.5 console, which has been really popular lately. I mean, obviously we had that with the PS4 Pro, Xbox One X, and even Nintendo did kind of a smaller scale version of that with the new 3DS and new 3DS XL. So it's not that insane to see something like a new Switch that supports higher resolutions, maybe even doing something like 1080p in handheld instead of 720, and full-blown 4K when docked. Another possibility is that something we've seen Nintendo do with a lot of their handhelds is the idea of something that's significantly different in some kind of design choice, whether that's making a larger version with a bigger screen that could be like the Switch XL, something that's smaller with a smaller screen like a Switch Lite. There's a lot of different ideas Nintendo could do to do something kind of a mixed up difference, to where it's not necessarily a straight up upgrade, so everyone who already owns a Switch has to buy the new thing, but instead it's an alternative option for someone that wants something a little different. Of the three companies, Sony has been the most tight-lipped in regards to what they're working on for the future, and that's for good reason, because this generation, they've pretty much consistently been on top.
PlayStation predictions.
I mean, the Switch has been doing great right now, but Nintendo's still kind of balancing out the Wii U years, and while Xbox has done a lot to improve their hardware and software, the launch of the Xbox One has not done it any real favors. So while PlayStation's been doing very strong, they don't really need to do much to build up hype right now because people are still buying their products very happily. Now, what we do know is that the next system, presumably a PlayStation 5, is in the works. To some degree, could be very early planning stages, but it's probably not going to come out anytime super soon. Most analysts and different rumors and stuff place it in kind of a 3-year spread, being as late as 2021 or as early as the holiday season of 2019, which is possible, but would be very surprising. And the main reason why they would maybe push that fast is because, which we'll get to in a bit, Xbox is likely releasing something in 2020, so if they want to try and undercut and beat the competition, that's the way to go. Now, if they want to take their time and release something more powerful, that's going to take a while. As for what form this new system might take, well, once again, they've been pretty tight-lipped, so there's a lot of different theories and rumors, but nothing with any real concrete evidence. Now, on the one hand, they could be focusing on just doing business as usual, creating a traditional home console, maybe making some major changes to it, like removing a disk drive or focusing on streamable games, but it's still going to be a fairly traditional home console. On the other hand, a rumor that's been going around is that they could be focusing on trying to do what Nintendo has done with the Switch, either with the next PlayStation or maybe with a new handheld, considering, the Vita and PSP didn't do super great in the US. But it is a thing that Sony has a history of looking at the successful things Nintendo has done and doing their own little spin on it for better or worse. Microsoft has been very forward with their plans of what they want to do with the next Xbox.
Xbox predictions.
They've been teasing so many different things, because like I said earlier, the Xbox One did not do quite as well as they hoped, even with all the updates and changes they made for the better, so they really want to get people excited for what they have going on in the future. And the way they've been doing that is just teasing so many project names that it's really hard to keep up with things like Project Scarlet and more recently, Anaconda.
Want none unless you got buns.
What's interesting about this is the number of devices that might be in the works for Microsoft, because Nintendo just has one new Switch refresh maybe, PlayStation might be working on a single new PS5, Microsoft has as many as 3 different new systems in the works. Starting off with sometime in 2019 we might be seeing a final new Xbox One design. Something that instead of the One X being the premium, expensive, awesome 4K system, they might be releasing something that is a cheaper, more affordable option to get people into their console. For instance, something that has the power of the One S but is cheaper by being smaller and not including a disk drive. After that is where things get interesting, because they have talked very plainly about releasing new systems as soon as 2020, a new generation of Xboxes that would maybe be released with two different options. Something like what we have right now with the One S and One X, but instead of it being something that happened over time, it's right there right away at launch, where you can spend more money to get the awesome 4K capable, cool system with all the features and support, while you could save money and get a cheaper, stripped down, smaller version that might even have things like less power in exchange for focusing more on streamable games. And that's what's really exciting, I think, about what Microsoft's working on, is because more than the other two right now, they're really trying to tackle and do something differently to change what people think of as a console. They've been experimenting a lot lately with Game Pass, focusing on the idea of people just paying a membership fee and just getting access to all these games up front, and I think that's something they want to take into the next system. Something that focuses on, yeah, having this cool piece of hardware, but it's focused more on Xbox as a service. Something that offers backwards compatibility with all their systems. Something where you just pay a fee and get access to all the brand new games. And something that focuses more on streaming them directly to the system, relying on the cloud, instead of having to have super expensive hardware in one unit. No matter which console you're a fan of, or if you balance across all three, what's important is that we're in a time right now where all of them have something interesting new in the works, and that is so exciting.